Learnex, English forever.
Welcome, members, to this week's edition of Feedback Learnex. Thanks for joining us. Studios like Disney, Universal, and Fox have dominated this terrain for years. However, Warner and Sony have increased their animated productions, while Netflix also has among its plans the launch of original animated films. We present to you today the highest grossing animated films of all time. Finding Nemo. Since its inception, Pixar demonstrated that it could make critically acclaimed, commercially successful animated films. But it was not until 2003, with the premiere of Finding Nemo, that the studio achieved a real box office bombshell. The film, that featured the voices of Albert Brooks and Ellen DeGeneres, grossed $940 million at the global box office, thereby achieving the highest figure that an animated film had ever made. The Lion King. The highest grossing animated film of the 20th century was The Lion King. Adjusting the numbers for inflation, the total that this film obtained worldwide amounts to $968 million. Despicable Me 2. Universal opted for films through the Illumination Studio, and its highest grossing success has been with the Despicable Me franchise. Of those installments, the one that has grossed the most at the box office has been Despicable Me 2, with $970 million worldwide, surpassing the $251 million that the initial film obtained. The film was placed as a true Hollywood hit at the level of Jurassic Park and the Fast and Furious franchises. Zootopia. Zootopia was one of the biggest hits for the Disney Studios during 2010, winning awards such as the Oscar, the Golden Globes, and the Annie. It was also one of the critics' darlings. While at the global box office, it earned $1,023 billion. The film was released in 2016, a year that, as we will see below, was very good for productions of this genre. Finding Dory. The Finding Nemo sequel, released in 2016, is one of the biggest grossing ever. In its opening weekend alone, Finding Dory earned $135 million at the worldwide box office. After its passage in theaters, the film closed with $1,028 billion globally. Despite the fact that Pixar has released incredibly successful animated films over the years, Finding Dory is just one of 3 studio films to have grossed over $1 billion. Despicable Me 3. With Despicable Me 3, Illumination proved that this franchise shows no signs of wear and tear, even after 3 movies and a spin-off. Directed by Pierre Coffin and Kyle Balda, Despicable Me 3 opened on its first weekend with 72 million accumulated and 1.34 billion in its worldwide commercial run, making it one of the biggest box office hits from 2017. Toy Story 3. The first animated Pixar film was Toy Story in 1995, and it seemed that the closure of this franchise would be seen in Toy Story 3 in 2010. However, with the massive success of the third installment that exceeded $1 billion at the box office, it was no surprise that Disney Pixar decided to greenlight Toy Story 3, and it grossed $1.67 billion at the global box office, far exceeding any of the other Pixar films released at that time. Consequently, the film also proved to Hollywood that the animated features could reach numbers comparable to real action blockbusters such as the sci-fi and superhero franchises. Minions. The Despicable Me spin-off became a box office success higher than the original movies. Launched in 2015, Minions had an impressive first weekend at $115 million, while their overall aggregated total was $1,159 billion. Even on the blockbuster movie charts, Minion is in the top 20 highest grossing ever, behind Iron Man 3. And in 2020, we will see the sequel to this spin-off. The Incredibles 2. The Incredibles 2 launched 14 years after its first installment, which took place before Disney bought Marvel. But no one expected the second film to do so well at the box office, achieving a surprising opening weekend at $182 million. While its global collection was $1,242 billion, so far, The Incredibles 2 is the highest grossing movie for a Pixar movie. Frozen. There were some awkward years for Disney Studios as Pixar earned all of the critical acclaim with its films, and because the former hadn't achieved a really major success. But all of that changed in 2013 with the premiere of Frozen. Frozen is the film that has been crowned the highest grossing of all time with a global box office gross of $1.29 billion. So there you have it, feedback listeners, the animated features that are comparable to those big name blockbuster hits. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week, Thursday night at 9:15 p.m.
Feedback Learnex, English Forever. Estamos en sintonía. Feedback Learnex, English Forever. Feedback Learnex.